Thank you for watching Setting Up ERDAS Apollo Security using the Data Manager from Hexagon Geospatial eTraining. In this video, we'll see how to add users, roles, and principal users with specific credentials in ERDAS Apollo Advantage or Professional. While Data Manager can be installed on any machine, only those users that have been granted the Admin or Data Manager roles can access and manage the ERDAS Apollo server. Begin by opening the Data Manager application and connecting to the ERDAS Apollo server. To connect, specify a server name, a port, and a username. In this case, the user DM for Data Manager with the default password Apollo123. Once logged in, notice in the Explorer tab the server name, port number, and in brackets, the user that is logged in this case, DM. Expand the server options by clicking the caret next to the server name. Look at Configuration, Catalog, Processes, and Services. Select the Configuration option and locate and expand the users, roles, and default principals. Select any of the users or roles and then review their information in the Properties tab. Notice that any information for a user or role has a lock icon next to it. The DM account or Data Manager user is only for those who need to manage the data on the ERDAS Apollo server. It does not allow for the management of users, roles, or other administrative tasks. Those roles are for ERDAS Apollo admins only. In the Explorer tab of the Data Manager, right-click on the current server and select Log Out. Once logged out, log back in, but this time use the administrator account that has the username of admin with the password of Apollo123. Once logged in, go back and select some users we previously looked at and notice that the locks are now gone. Also notice that the information in the Properties tab for a user are now editable, such as the admin or DM passwords. When you first install ERDAS Apollo, one of the first things that should be done is to change the password for the admin and DM users. We'll now select one of the roles and look at its properties. Notice that these fields are still locked and cannot be modified. This is by design, as the ERDAS Apollo system needs these roles for other tasks within the system. However, new roles can be added. On the Roles folder, right-click and select Create Role. A dialog box opens asking for the role's name. Input the name EA_training. Note that there can be no spaces in the user or role names. Click the OK button. The new role is created, and now information can be added to that role in the Properties tab. Add a description of the role, such as Role created for ERDAS Apollo training only. In the aliased system role, select the Data Manager role ESP_data_manager. Click away from the Properties tab, and if prompted to save changes, click Yes. It's important to mention that any user that needs access to the ERDAS Apollo server via the Data Manager must be assigned to a role that is associated with the ESP_data_manager or the ESP_administrator role. They are the only roles allowed to log into the server from the Data Manager. All other roles are for access to data via the Geospatial portal or a third-party application. One or more roles can be assigned to users. Let's create a new user and assign roles to that user. Right-click on the Users folder in the Configuration section and select Create User. Type in Training for the username and click OK. Select the user. In the Properties tab, the ERDAS Apollo administrator can input information about the user as well as assign roles and create the user's password. Enter the following information: City, Norcross; Company name, Hexagon Geospatial; Contact person, ERDAS Apollo training staff; Country, United States; Department name, Support; Email, geospatial@hexagongeospatial.com. Password can be left blank. Postal address, 5051 Peachtree Corners Circle. Remarks. This user is for ERDAS Apollo training only. Roles can be left blank. State, Georgia. Telephone, 770-776-3469. Username, training. In the Password section, click in the box to the right of the field. In the password dialog that opens, enter a password such as train123. Type it a second time in the confirmation field and click OK to save your changes. In the Roles section, click in the box to the right of the field. In the Roles dialog from the Available column, select EA_training and ESP_consumer and move them to the Selected column by clicking the middle top button with the single right-facing caret. Click the OK button to apply the roles and close the dialog box. Once your changes have been made, go back to the Explorer tab and log out of the server. Once logged out, log back in with the new user training and the train123 password. Once logged in as the training user, right-click on the root directory and select Crawl File System. The Crawler Wizard opens. In the Crawler Wizard, use the Browse button to navigate to a directory containing data, in this case the folder EA Train on the C drive. Within the EA Train folder, select the ECW folder and click the OK button. Back in the wizard, click the Next button and leave the scheduling as its default to run immediately and click the Next button. In the Processing and Web Options dialog, accept the defaults and click the Next button. In the Security settings, notice that permissions for the ESP_administrator are grayed out. The ESP administrator role has access to any dataset coming into the ERDAS Apollo catalog and cannot be removed. Click the ESP_data_manager role and then the delete button represented by the red X to remove this role. Once this role is removed, add a new principal or new role by clicking the green plus button. Click the green plus button to add a role/user. In the Principal drop-down menu, locate the training user and select it and click OK to close the Add Principal dialog box. The training user is now added with the default permission Read Only. Check the options to update, delete, and manage and click the Next button. Click the Next button in the Metadata Parser dialog and then Finish in the Summary dialog to begin the crawling process. Once the crawling job is complete, under the root, select the ECW aggregate and right-click. Select the Datasets tab and inspect the security for the datasets in the ECW aggregate. Notice that the security has been applied for both the aggregate and the datasets inside the aggregate. When finished reviewing the security settings, right-click on the ECW aggregate and delete it. If a specific role or user will be doing most of the data management or crawling, the ERDAS Apollo administrator can make that role a default principal with specific CRUD or create, read, update, delete permissions. Log out of the ERDAS Apollo server as the training user and log back in using the administrator role with the admin/Apollo123 credentials. In the Configuration portion of the Explorer tab, right-click on the Default Principals folder and select Create Default Principal. In the Create Default Principal dialog box, use the drop-down and select the EA_training role and click OK. Select the EA_training principal in the Default Principals folder and in the Properties tab, change the false value to true for execute, read, update, and leave Manage Permissions and Delete Permissions as false. Save the changes. Now, as the administrator, add the ECW folder back to the root aggregate. Crawl File System, Browse, select Directory, ECW, OK. Next, on File System directory, next on Scheduling, next on Processing the Web Options. Notice in the Security Settings dialog that the EA_training is now added to the dataset with the default credentials. Remove the ESP_data_manager role from the dataset. Finish the crawling process. Now that the crawling process is finished, look at the security of the EA_training user. Log out of the admin account and then log back in as the training user. Select the ECW dataset, right-click on the dataset or the aggregate, and look at the security. Notice that the EA_training user is now grayed out and only has read and update permissions. It cannot be deleted or manage the data. Let's verify this. Try to delete the ECW aggregate by right-clicking on it and deleting it. As expected, we are denied that capability. Thank you for watching this e-training module from Hexagon Geospatial. For more e-training, please visit hexagongeospatial.com/etraining.